Dear anxious person, here's why your anxiety is making you stuck. You're overthinking about too many things, and there's a lot to be worried about, isn't there? The politics, the state of our country, just conflict, maybe personal conflict that you're going through. So there's a lot of stuff to really keep you fixated on those stuck points that keeps your anxiety always revved up. You know what I mean, right? So when you are so fixated on a worry, something that maybe happened in the past or hasn't happened yet in the future, and you're borrowing trouble, when you do that, you focus on something that you have no control over. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but I really want to encourage you to first name what it is you're worried about. It's okay to have those feelings. Your feelings are valid, but a lot of times those feelings are influenced by something that you have no control over. You can't go in the past and fix what happened. You can't go into the future and try to make things better or to fix something. And that's when a lot of times the anxiety starts to get the best of you and you get so focused on it, you overthink and your mind just races. A lot of you have anxiety when you're trying to sleep and you can't fall asleep, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and you're worried about something. I get it. I get it. So if you're an anxious person and you're really struggling right now, I want to encourage you, first of all, it can get better. The worry, the anxiety that you're struggling with right now, it can get better. I help so many clients overcome this very thing. And you're not alone. In fact, anxiety is one of the biggest struggles in the world right now that people have. And a lot of times it's because they focus on things they cannot control. And that's hard because we want to fix things, don't we? We want to make things better. We want to feel better. And so we get fixated on it and we can't get our mind off of it. And so I want to encourage you that, first of all, your feelings are valid, but there are things that you can do to work on it. It's not something that's just going to go away on its own, more than likely. It's not going to just disappear and go poof. It doesn't work that way most of the time, unfortunately. But it takes a lot of work on your part. So I want to help you learn that there are things that you can do. So if you're an anxious person, I really want to encourage you, first of all, to follow my channel here because I am a therapist and I want to help you. But secondly, I want you to realize and not beat yourself up over what you're thinking about and you can't seem to get over it. A lot of people have this inner critic and they start to blame themselves. They get bad or critical of themselves and think badly of themselves. But that's only going to make it worse. You probably know all the things to make it worse, but I want to encourage you. Here are some things that you can do to make it better. So first of all, acknowledge that how you feel is valid, right? Don't feel guilty. Don't beat yourself up for it. Just acknowledge that you're struggling and it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have that stress. You don't like it, but it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. We have a lot to worry about. But, so there's one thing about validating how you feel, but it's another thing to really challenge your thinking. And a vast majority of our anxiety comes from faulty thinking. We tend to think about things that, like I mentioned, can't control, or we catastrophize, we worry about things that may never ever happen. We borrow that trouble and we allow it, we borrow the trouble and we allow it to really affect us in the moment. And so whether you're going to school, whether you're going to work, maybe your anxiety is so bad that you had to take a leave from work. Try these things. First of all, don't beat yourself up, but then acknowledge that it's okay to feel the way you do, but then work on those thoughts. So identify and challenge the thoughts. What are they? What are you worried about? Only you know, right? So write down the thoughts that you're worried about. I want you to really be thinking about this. Write everything down that you're worried about. And there might be 3 or 4 or 5 things that are predominant, and those things take up a lot of space in your head. So write them down, acknowledge them, and then ask yourself, what can I do about any of these things on my list? Can you do anything about it? And then I want you to look at the thoughts and try to identify, are you catastrophizing? Are you thinking about the future? Or are you fixated on the past? You can't get over something. I want you to be able to identify what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and then challenge those thoughts that you wrote down on the paper. And then I want you to ask yourself, each thought that you have on that list, ask yourself, is there another way of thinking about this situation that's more based on evidence rather than your assumptions or jumping to conclusions? Focus on what you know to be true rather than fixate on things that you don't know to be true. And that's where a lot of this anxiety comes, and it keeps you stuck. Your anxiety will keep you stuck if you allow it to have space in your head. Don't allow it to sit there any longer. So write them down, acknowledge that you are really struggling with it, but then I want you to challenge those thoughts and ask yourself, are these thoughts that I have legitimate? Do I have evidence for them? And if you don't, then I want you to really be specific. How can I think about this situation that's different? How do I focus on what I know to be true rather than what I think is true? And if you could work on that, if you can identify the things that you struggle with and you're anxious about, and if you're a normal anxious person, maybe you just know, you know what, I am just more of an anxious person all the time everywhere I go. Or maybe some of you are anxious some of the time, but not all the time, but something happens and it creates this anxiety. Well, whatever the case is, I want you, first of all, don't beat yourself up, but then acknowledge the struggle and then let's do something about it. Don't wait and hope that tomorrow's going to get better, because a lot of times it doesn't, right? That's the problem. Some of you have had this anxiety for years and months, and maybe you just started, but it just doesn't always go away right away or easily. So you have to do something about it. No one else can take the anxiety away. You have to. You have to work on you, and that's the hard part. And so write them down, acknowledge them, and confront them, challenge those thoughts that you've identified, that maybe you're worried about something in the future or you're fixated on something in the past. And you acknowledge that, I don't have any control over it. All I can do is work on today. It's a lot easier said than done, I know. But I want you to really try to focus on what can you do today. So if you're going to school, let's say some of you are going to school, you have anxiety at school, what can you do today? Don't worry about something that hasn't happened yet. What can you do today? Maybe it's learning some breathing exercises on the way to school. Maybe it's giving yourself some positive affirmations. Maybe it's listening to something positive or watching this video on the way to school. Some of you have anxiety about going to work, and maybe there's a manager that you don't get along with or a coworker. What can you do today to work on that? It's one day at a time. And that's really the key to this. So focus on today. Don't focus on the future. Don't focus on the past. What can you do today? Name it, write it down, challenge the thoughts, don't beat yourself up, and try to work on today. Don't borrow trouble, work on today. And that, I think, is going to help you one little step at a time. Is it going to take away your anxiety instantly, just like that? No. But will it make it better? I think so. Try it. But you have to be persistent. You have to practice it. And you have to be patient with yourself. But each day that you wake up is a new day. It's a new opportunity to feel better. Don't worry about tomorrow. Work on today. So if you can work on today and really focus on and catch yourself when you start to worry about something that you can't control, bring it back and work on now, the here and now, and focus on what can I work on today. And when you find yourself worried about things, ask yourself, if I can't do anything about it now, I have to wait. And that wait is hard, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to really focus on today. I'm going to make my list and challenge my thoughts and not beat myself up. Tomorrow's a new day. So work on these things that I've talked about. I think they'll help. And I want to acknowledge that if you're watching this, then I know you have anxiety. And I am a therapist and I help people every single day with their anxiety. I get it. I get it. I get you. And I want to help you. And so if you want to really work on and focus on your anxiety today, then I hope this has been helpful. So work on this, make a list, let me know. I want you to tell me in the comments if this has been helpful, if there's anything that I said in this video that's been helpful. I want to know, and I want to learn from you what would be helpful to make next in my video. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Tomorrow's a new day. Focus on today and don't beat yourself up.